All right, it's hot take time, and I'm going to violate the #1 rule of sales, reviews. So I'm going to rank each of these bars in every single category rather than say something like this is the best for most people. So let's find out what's the best budget safety squat bar as Titan Fitness, Bells of Steel, and Rep Fitness square off. I've decided to make my Rep Fitness safety squat bar review into a comparison because I really don't want to do an entirely separate budget safety squat bar comparison video because, well, that requires more squatting. So in this one, I'll take each of these bars and compare them to reps in every single category to see which one comes out on top. And by the end of the video, you'll have my hot take, which typically gets me into trouble, and I'll rank these budget safety squat bars, reps, the Bells of Steel SS3, the Titan series, and Titan's version 2, which, if you're wondering why it's not up here, it wouldn't fit. And I also send all of my extra equipment to my friend's house for storage, which really makes me wonder why he's not a better friend, but I guess that's beside the point because I'll be ranking each of these from best to worst and giving my thoughts on why I place each where they are, and as always, I'll do my best to answer the questions you sent us on our Instagram. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying you should go run out and upgrade to one of these if you've already got one, but if you're feeling that home gym sickness where you need more equipment, I have no problem with you clicking those links in the description. And let me know in the comments which safety squat bar you want me to review next. Whichever one gets the most attention, I will completely ignore like all the others. I am so sick of squatting. Rather than discuss why you'd want to use a safety squat bar like we've done in our other reviews of these bars, let's just simplify things and say there's only one reason you'd want an SSB. And that's so you can check yourself out in the mirror while you squat shirtless. And that's a joke, obviously, not the checking yourself out part. That was serious. But there's a lot of reasons you might want one of these things. You can do a lot with them. To me, a good safety squat bar comes down to two things, though there are a lot of other factors, and we will cover all of them. But balance and comfort are the big ones, and they're both easy enough to test. For balance, I just throw some weight on the bar, let go, and pray it doesn't flip over and take me with it. But it should rest on your shoulders through the full range of motion of a squat without you having to do anything to keep it there. If you've got to do some type of ritualistic dance to keep them there, it's not well balanced. Simple as that. In the balance category, I think Titan and Rep are both very well balanced bars. And you may have your own personal preference there, but I'd give them a tie or maybe Rep a slight edge for first. And keep in mind the Titan V2 and Titan series bars are functionally identical even if they're put together a little differently. Balance basically comes down to padding and the camber angle and camber drop. But rather than explain some fancy physics I don't really understand, I took some pictures. These all basically have the same camber angle of 22 degrees except Reps, which they say is 30 degrees. Though I didn't take a protractor out, but their bends and drops are all fairly different, and all that fancy math affects their fit in racks, which is an important aspect of their builds. If it doesn't fit, you probably shouldn't be trying to cram it in there. But with Reps bar, they've designed it to fit in a wide range of racks. And you can see here, it should fit pretty much in any rack because their 5.5-inch camber drop has a quicker bend to it. So it fits very well in 47-inch racks like their own, as well as 49-inch racks like a Rogue Monster or Rogue Monster Lite. But that also makes it a little longer and heavier than the other options. Titan's has a 5-inch camber drop, but the bend is much softer. So much like the SS3, with its 4-inch or so drop, you can make it work on a 49-inch wide rack, but it will either angle your J-cups or sit up on them some. The Bells of Steel bar is the lightest of the three at 47.5 pounds, and since it also has the shallowest camber, it almost feels like it's on the verge of wanting to flip at times. I've had mine for months and it never has, but I've definitely grabbed it on occasion thinking it might. Now for Hatfield squats, I overcome that feeling by putting the longest set of handles on to push the weight forward some. But it's a solution I wish I didn't ever have to think up and use. It's actually the smallest of these budget bars because the rest weigh 60 pounds or more, making it easier to move, which is no small feat with these things, but you do have to be careful when loading and unloading it because it'll tip with 2 plates on one side. To test the comfort of the bar, you'll load it up with weight and ignore the normal pain and misery of squatting and focus on that feeling of floating on clouds with 400 pounds on your back. And I admit, comfort is a little more subjective, but I actually find all of these to be fairly comfortable. But what works for me might not work for you. And comparing pads is where I really started debating what I was doing with my life, as I spent well over an hour taking all of these bars apart, squeezing pads and taking pictures that really, now that I see them, makes me wonder what the hell I was doing. And comparing them to each other, which either makes me the hardest working or dumbest reviewer out there. But padding also might be the easiest area to rank because you could probably make a strong argument the SS3 pad, Titan series pad, and version 2 pad are exactly the same, because they seem identical, though the SS3 pad is maybe a little softer than the others. But they're all really just carpet padding. Actually, one of the things I mentioned in my Titan series bar review is while the bar is made in the US, which is a big advertising point by them, and I think it's probably made by Solid Bar Fitness, which I'll explain in a minute, I still think the pad is made overseas. And that's because as far as I can tell, they're the same exact pad. And since Titan watched that review and commented on it and didn't refute it, I'd imagine I'm correct. So I would just throw all of them in a tie for second and say that personally, I like Rep's padding better because it's the only one that seems to be any different. It's firmer than the rest because they're using a more dense foam and the quality of the foam is higher as well. But there were a few reasons this video was delayed and I didn't get to be as cool as the other reviewers. One, my enjoyment of having to squat 3 times as much to compare all these bars can't be understated. And 2, my original pad had some issues with it, where the firmness was inconsistent in places, so I had Rep send me another one. Technically, I did Hatfield squats with the original pad with about 335 pounds or so without issue, but I wanted to be thorough and make sure I was being complete and honest in this review, so I decided to wait for the replacement pad, which I haven't had issues with. The other reason I like Rep's pad is for the vinyl and stitching. And that's because I managed to rip every single one of these except Rep's by pulling the pads off and on so much for this review. But don't feel too bad for me, I'll just have my mommy stitch them back up for me. When it comes to handles, I find them a little bit more difficult to rank. While I do think Rep has the single nicest pair of handles out of any of these bars, because they feature the best build quality, and if you're one of those people who thinks everything needs to be knurled, you'll enjoy these long, thick, 1.5-inch fully knurled handles. But I wish they had used the same size bolt because whereas Titan and Bells handles are interchangeable, Rep's won't fit. From there it's personal preference, but I'd probably give an advantage to the honeycomb handles of the Titan series versus version 2 or the SS3's ribbed handles, but I still give the nod to Bells here because their bar includes 3 different sets of handles with the chains, long and medium length handles. Sure, you'll probably rarely, if ever, change them around, but currently they're the only ones offering options. Speaking of which, while I like the knurling on Rep's handles because it is a pretty clean knurl, and it's a clear upgrade over the cheap rubber handles every other budget SSB seems to offer, I do wish it was a bit more aggressive because it's a fairly passive knurl. And since they didn't want to make their long, thick bolt fit into the others, I think it's only fair they offer more options in the future. And yes, Rep, I know you're watching. I'm going to group the finish and sleeve rankings into the same group because one helps to explain the other. And I'd rank them like this. In 4th place, without a doubt, is the Titan series bar. It has a poorly applied black zinc finish throughout the entire bar. Black zinc is probably my least favorite finish because it wears away quickly and looks bad when it does, making it a bad choice for these rib sleeves. Combine that with the fact that these sleeves are held on with a single set screw and it's an easy 4th. It does help them save on shipping costs, but that's about the only positive I can think of with these things. You could argue the Mars bar uses the same system and it works there, and that's true, but it's not a system I love, and it's why I believe Solid Bar Fitness manufactures this bar. The sleeves and finish are identical. In 3rd, I'd put the SS3 with the black zinc finish on the shaft, which is at least an okay finish there because you're not really making much contact with the shaft, at least Well, I'm not. I don't know what you're doing in your home gym, but the glossiness of their black zinc does look a little bit odd if it wears away some. They did put a bright zinc finish on the sleeves, which is a decent finish there because it doesn't show wear as badly. And I don't really have any issues with the sleeves except maybe that they're a little bit loud when loading and unloading plates because of the ribbed pattern, and maybe some people would debate whether you want rotating sleeves on a safety squat bar, but it really hasn't affected me. Next up is Titan's version 2 with a chrome finish on the shaft and on those smooth sleeves. Chrome is a more durable finish than zinc and won't look terrible like black zinc does as it wears away, but I'd still give the upper hand to Rep's bar because it has a hard chrome finish on those smooth sleeves, making it an upgrade over version 2's chrome. Though if I nitpicked Rep, and this might be the only issue I've had with the bar except for the pad problem, one of the sleeves has a slag mark or something on one of the collars, but the rest of the bar does look great. Of course, looks aren't all that matters, at least that's what I used to tell myself, but Rep definitely has the nicest finishes here. The metallic black powder coat sparkles like a big black vampire.
Whoa, you can't say that.
The finishes don't look or feel budget? And in general, the build quality is much better than the others as well. When it comes to specs and builds, to be completely honest with you, these are all based on the Elite FTS yoke bar in some way. I've given Titan a hard time for drawing inspiration from others' designs in the past and probably in the future as well, but it would be hard to deny that they all haven't done a little bit of the same thing here. And while I truly respect Elite and Dave Tate for creating that bar, because without it, these wouldn't exist, but I also have to admit these bars have upgraded the design some in certain ways. Take, for example, the fact that all of these bars have Olympic-sized sleeves, so you don't need to use specialized axle collars on them. And the chrome finish on the sleeves of Titan's version 2 or hard chrome on Reps is an upgrade over the clear coat Elite uses. We could have even included Elite's bar in this budget bar comparison if you want to qualify any of these as budget bars at $300, but I didn't know when or if that sale price is going to jump back up. Actually, comparing these bars based on price can be a little difficult because Titan runs so many flash deals and sales. I've made it a personal rule to never buy anything from them for full price. So my final rankings with price in mind, in fourth place, any day of the week, I'd put the Titan Series bar. The coating is a downgrade from version 2's, and sure, the balance is a little better than the SS3, and I do really want to love it for being made in the US, but even that I don't think is entirely true because of this pad, and it's still sitting at its introductory price. So who knows what that final price will look like. To me, third place belongs to the Bells of Steel SS3. It's a good bar, but it faces some stiff competition. While I enjoy the inclusion of 3 sets of handles, it's the most expensive option at $350. I'll put Titan's version 2 in second place, which is a big deal because for a long time it was the best budget safety squat bar before Reps came along. But it's still a very good bar, and if you can snag it when they have one of their deep discounts like a few weeks ago and it was selling for $230, then I'd take it over any of these bars. But as is, I'd rather pay a little bit extra to Rep and purchase what I think is the best of the bunch. And when I think about it, that's in pretty much every category. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to help boost us on the algorithm. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.